Hey guys, welcome back. So today we'll be ordering fractions from least to greatest and greatest to least. Let's look at our first example. So let's say we had to order these fractions here, 1 over 10, 3 over 5, and 1 over 2. The first method that you can use is to write your fractions into decimal form. And then the second method that you can use is to find your common denominator, your least common multiple, or your least common denominator. All right, so first let's look at method 1. If I turn my 1 over 10 into a decimal, that's going to give me 0.1. If I turn my 3 over 5 into a decimal, that's going to give me 0.6. And if I turn my 1 over 2 into a decimal, that's going to give me 0.5. And remember, when you are setting up your decimals, remember that your 10, let's look at my 1 over 10 for an example. Remember, your 10's on the outside, your 1 is on the inside. And because 10 does not go into 1, you're going to add your decimal, 0. 10 now goes into 10 one time. 10 times 1 is 10. And then you're going to see 10 minus 10 is 0. If I do my 3 over 5, your 5 is on the outside, 3 is on the inside. 5 doesn't go into 3, so I'm going to add my decimal, 0. 5 goes into 30 6 times. 5 times 6 is 30. 30 minus 30 is 0. And then if I do my 1 over 2, 2 does not go into 1, so I'm going to add my decimal, 0. 2 does, however, go into 10 5 times. So 2 times 5 is 10. 10 minus 10 is 0. So these are the decimals that we receive when we divide it. Now, by looking at my decimal, if I'm going from least to greatest, the first one is going to be my 0.1, and then my 0.5, and then my 0.6. We're going from the smallest number to the larger number. Now, if I pinpoint it back to my original fractions, you're going to put your 1 over 10 is first, and then your 1 over 2 is next, and then followed by your 3 over 5. So this is 1, next is 2, and then next is 3 here. So let's try the second method. So we have 1 over 10, 3 over 5, and then 1 over 2. Let's list the multiples of my 10 first. So we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and I'll stop here for now. My 5, we have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and I'll stop here for now. And then my 2, you have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and I'll stop here for now. The least common denominator that we have, the least common multiple, is going to be the number 10. So I know I need to get 10 in my denominator so that we can compare properly. So I'm going to 10 here, and a 10 here. So let's look at my first 1 over 10 here. I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1. I just have 1 right there, so I'm going to do just 1 right here. Next, my 3 over 5, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1, 2. So top and bottom here, by the number 2. And then this fraction here, this multiple of 2, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is going to be 5. And now we're going to multiply. So 1 times 1 is 1. 10 times 1 is 10. We already have that in my denominator. 3 times 2 is 6. 5 times 2 is 10. We got that. 1 times 5 is 5. And then 2 times 5 is also 10. And we already have that in my denominator. So by looking at my 1, my 6, and my 5, now let's go ahead and order this from least to greatest, the smallest fraction to the largest fraction. So first we know 1 over 10 is going to be first. And then the fraction equivalent to my 5 over 10 is next, and then my 6 over 10 is also next. We know 1 over 10, we're going to put my 1 over 10 here. So this is the first one right here. Next, we have my 5 over 10, which is the fraction here. This is equivalent to my 1 over 2. And then next, we have my 3 over 5, which is right here. So this is your final answer here. Let's look at this example here. So first, let's look at the first method. We're going to turn our fractions into decimals. So 2 over 3, if I turn this into a decimal, I'm going to get 0.66 repeating. If I turn my 3 over 4 into a decimal, I'm going to get 0.75. If I turn my 7 over 12 into a decimal, you're going to get 0.583 with the 3 repeating. So if I compare my decimals, we know first my decimal here is going to be first. That's the smallest one. And then next is going to be this decimal here, my 0.6 repeating. And then the last greatest one is going to be the 0.75. Now let's list the fraction form. So this decimal here is going to be my 7 over 12 first. Next, we have our 0.6 repeating. That's my 2 over 3. Next, we have my 0.75, and that's my 3 over 4, right? And this is your final answer here. All right, so now let's try the second method. We're going to list the multiples of my 3, my 4, and my 12. Multiples of 3 is going to be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. I'll stop here for now. And then my 4 is going to be 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. I'll stop here for now. And then my 12, you're going to get 12, 24, 36, 48, and I'll stop here for now. The least common multiple or denominator for all 3 multiples here is going to be the number 12. So we have a 12 here, 12 here, and here. So I know I need to get 12 in my denominator so that we can compare. So if I look at my 3, I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by 1, 2, 3, 4. Multiply top and bottom by 4. If I look at my 4 here, we're going to get 1, 2, 3. We're going to multiply top and bottom by 3. And then for my 12, I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 1 because I just have 1 right there. So times 1 times 1. Now we're going to multiply. So 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 4 is 12. We already have that in my denominator. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 3 is 12. 7 times 1 is 7. And then 12 times 1. So if I compare my 8, my 9, and my 7, first, we know that this here is first. So that's your 7 over 12. This is first. Next, we have our 2 over 3 is next, which is the fraction here, the original problem right there. And then next, we have our fraction right here, which is the 3 over 4, which is number 3. And this is your final answer as well. Let's look at our next example here. So if I turn my 9 over 14 into a decimal, you're going to get 0.6428, and the number keeps going on and on and on. If you turn your 2 over 4 into a decimal, you're going to get 0.5. And then if you turn your 5 over 7 into a decimal, you're going to get 0.71428, and the number keeps going on and on and on. So if I'm going from least to greatest, first thing we have is my 2 over 4 is going to be first because that's a decimal here. We got that. And then next in line, we're going to use our 9 over 14, which is a decimal here. And then next we have our 0.71428, and it keeps going on, is our 5 over 7, and that's going to be the last one. So this is your final answer here. Remember, this is the first right here. This decimal is first. Then we use the 9 over 14. This is the next decimal, which is this fraction here. And then we use this other decimal here, the last one, for my 5 over 7. So now let's look at method number 2. We're going to list the multiples of 14, 4, and 7. Multiples of 14, we have 14, 28, 42, and 56. I'll stop here for now. For my 4, we have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. I'll stop here for now. My 7, we have 7, 14, 21, 28, and 35. And I'll stop here for now. And for my 4, I do need to add a couple more. So my least common multiple is going to be the number 28. So I know I need to get 28 in my denominator. So we have 28 here, 28 here, and 28 here. So my 14, 1, 2, multiply top and bottom here by the number 2. For my 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by the number 7. For my 7 here, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by the number 4. 9 times 2 is 18. 14 times 2 is 28. We got that. 2 times 7 is 14. 4 times 7 is 28. 5 times 4 is 20. And then 7 times 4 is 28. If I compare my 18, my 14, and my 20 from least to greatest, we know that this is going to be first. Next is my 18 over 28, and then it's going to be this fraction here. So my 14 over 28, that's the 2 over 4. I'm going to list this first. Next, we have the 18 over 28, that's the 9 over 14. And then last, we have our 20 over 28, that's the 5 over 7. Right? And this is your final answer here. Let's look at this example here. So now let's list our fractions from greatest to least. So we're going from the largest fraction to the smallest fraction. So if I turn my 5 over 9 into a decimal, you're going to get 0.555 repeated. If you turn your 2 over 3 into a decimal, you're going to get 0.66 repeating. 1 over 2 into a decimal is going to be 0.5. And if I'm going from the largest fraction, the largest decimal to the smallest, first thing first, we know this decimal here is first. Next, you have this decimal here, and then this is your last decimal here. We're going from greatest to smallest. And remember, you don't have anything here. This is just going to be an imaginary 0. And then here you have 5s repeating. So 5 is greater than your 0. So my fractions, I'm going to match them up. So first, we have this fraction here is 2 over 3. This is first. Next, we have our 5 over 9. And then next, we have our 1 over 2. And this is your final answer here. Let's look at method number 2. Let's find the common denominator. So for my 9, we have 9, 18, 27, 36. And I'll stop here for now. For my 3, we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and 21. I'll stop here for now. And for my 2, we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20. I'll stop here for now. The least common multiple between all three numbers here is going to be the number 18. 18 here, 18 here, and here. So I know I need to get 18 in my denominator. Let's look at my 9. I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 2. 1, 2 is right there. So this is by 2 here, and this is by 2. For my 3, we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by the number 6. And then for my 2 here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by the number 9. And now we're going to multiply. So 5 times 2, this is 10. 9 times 2 is 18. 2 times 6 is 12. 3 times 6 is 18. And then 1 times 9, this is going to be 9. So by looking at my 10, my 12, and my 9, if we're going from the largest fraction to the smallest, I know that this is first here. Next is going to be this fraction here. And then last is going to be this fraction here. So first, my 12 over 18, that's the 2 over 3. This is first. Next, we have the 5 over 9. And then next, we have the 1 over 2. And this is your final answer. Let's look at this example here. Method 1. If I turn my 1 over 6 into a decimal, then you're going to get 0.166 repeating. If I turn my 1 over 24 into a decimal, then you're going to get 0.0416 repeating. And then if I turn my 1 over 12 into a decimal, you're going to get 0.083 repeating. So if I'm going from my greatest to the smallest, this decimal here is going to be first. And then next, we have our 0.083 repeating. And then the last one is going to be 0.0416. So now let's match up our fractions. So first, we have our 1 over 6. This is first. Next, you have your 1 over 12. And then next, you have your 1 over 24. And this is your final answer here. So let's look at method number 2. We're going to find the multiples of my 6, my 24, and my 12. So for my 6, we have 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, and I'll stop here for now. My 24, we have 24, 48, 72, and 96. And then for my 12, we have 12, 24, 36, 48. So the common denominator that we have between these here is going to be the number 24. So 24 here, and here. So I know we need to get 24 in my denominator. Let's look at my 6. We're going to multiply top and bottom by 1, 2, 3, 4. Top and bottom here is going to be by 4. For my 24, just 1. Just do 1 or just leave it alone. And then for my 12, we have 1, 2, multiply top and bottom here by the number 2. 1 times 4 is 4. 6 times 4 is 24. We got that. 1 times 1 is 1. 24 times 1 is also 24. And then 1 times 2 is 2. 12 times 2 is 24. So by comparing these fractions here, we see that this one here is going to be first. Next is this fraction here. And then next is this fraction here because we're going from greatest to smallest. So my 1 over 6, this is first. Next, we have our 1 over 12. And then next, we have our 1 over 24. And as you can see, this is your final answer as well. Let's look at this example here. So if I turn these fractions here to decimal, your 6 over 10, this is going to be 0.6 as your decimal. 2 over 5 as a decimal is going to be 0.4. 10 over 20 as a decimal is going to be 0.5. And remember, when you're setting up your decimals, that your 10 is on the outside, your 6 is on the inside. 10 does not go into 6. So you're going to add your decimal, decimal 0. 10 does go into 60 6 times. 10 times 6 is 60. 60 minus 60 is going to equal 0. We're going to do the same for the next fraction. 5 doesn't go into 2. I'm going to add my decimal, decimal 0. 5 does go into 20 4 times. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 minus 20 is 0. And then that's where we get our 0.4 there. And then for the 10 over 20, 20 does not go into 10, so I'm going to add my decimal, decimal 0. 20 does go into 100 5 times. 20 times 5 is 100. 100 minus 100 is 0. So by looking at my decimals here, I can see that this decimal is going to be first. Next, we have our 0.5 is next. And then your 0.4 is going to be last. So my 0.6, that's the fraction here, is going to be 6 over 10. This is first. Next is my 10 over 20. And then next you have your 2 over 5. And this is your final answer here. Now let's look at method number 2. So the multiples of my 10, my 5, and my 20. So my 10, we have 10, 20, 30, 40, and I'll stop here for now. For my 5, we have 5, 10, 15, 20, and I'll stop here for now. And then for my 20, we have 20, 40, 60, 80, and I'll stop here for now. The common denominator that we do have for these numbers here is going to be the number 20. So 20 here, 20 here, and here. So I know I need to get 20 in my denominator. So let's look at my first one here. We are going to multiply top and bottom by 1, 2. Next, I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by 1, 2, 3, 4. Next, I'm going to multiply top and bottom here by just 1. Or you can just leave it alone because we already have 20 in the denominator. Now we're going to multiply. 6 times 2 is 12. 10 times 2 is 20. 2 times 4 is 8. 5 times 4 is 20. 10 times 1 is 10. 20 times 1 is also 20. If I compare these fractions here, first you're going to see that this fraction is going to be first. Next, we have our 10 over 20 here, and then next you have this fraction here. So let's go ahead and list them down. This is my original fraction, which is the 6 over 10. Put that here. Next, we have our 10 over 20. And then next, you have your 2 over 5. And you will see that you will get the same answer that we have here for method 1 and for method 2. All right, so that is all for today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.